Hello, everyone, and back to another Layover Live, the podcast where we keep destination marketers like you up to date on the latest digital marketing. I'm your host once again, Jason Swick, VP of Strategy and Insights here at SimpleView. And as always, I'm joined by my friend and brilliant co-host, Sandy Jordan. So, Sandy, welcome back.
Brilliant. I've heard friend before, not brilliant. I'm digging that.
Yeah. I give you one of those every year. You've already used it up now early in the year.
That's it.
Yeah, you don't get another one moving forward. But absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, excited to be back.
Yes, I'm excited too. Now, a lot of folks out there are probably wondering where we've been, right? We've been radio silent since the holidays. And listen, we weren't hibernating, so I don't want to fool you there. Although sometimes I wish I was hibernating, as you do, Sandy, I'm sure too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, but we were, we had a little heart to heart over here about how to make the show even better for our amazing destination marketing friends out there. And so we have some big changes coming along. Talk about that.
Yeah, we're shaking things up. We're gonna go back to our roots. We're gonna forget about cameras and a fancy studio. You know, the news, it moves too fast for that. And also, Jason and I do this for a living for all of you guys. So we actually practice the strategies we preach about. So we need a format that is going to be quick, going to get the information to you as quickly and efficiently as possible. So we're going to be bringing the same deep dive digital marketing discussions that you've loved in the past straight to your ears, wherever you get your favorite podcast.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I feel like audio is the new name of the game, Sandy, right? Like, I listen to so many podcasts, whether it's on the way to work. I listen to when I'm actually stuck in a layover at the airport, right? And
Exactly.
we're trying to catch our next flight. But listen, at the end of the day, we're busy. I know you guys are busy as hell. Like Sandy and I get that, right? So whether you're commuting or maybe you're trying to squeeze in a workout, which I'm starting to do a little bit more this year. Okay. One of our bingo things last year was I'm going to lose 20 pounds. So I'm staying with it, Sandy. I'm staying with it.
That's right.
Whether you're doing that or multitasking or doing any of that, consider us here still your guys' go-to source for hot takes on and insider tips around digital marketing. We want to create value, and we'll still continue to do that with the channel.
Exactly. Yep. So we are ready to take a deep dive into another exciting topic.
Yeah, let's do this. So listen, we're kind of getting back to the roots of the layover a little bit. If you remember when we started the layover, boy, Sandy, first episode would have been October of 17, I think. Does that sound about right?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we're dating ourselves. But as we did that, one of the things that we really enjoyed doing or sharing with everybody out there was news and articles that we came across, right? So the original layover, when we did it, we would send out an email across all these different articles or blog posts that we read across the team every week, because we were realizing that, wow, a lot of our DMO friends could probably really benefit from some of this, because these are great articles that we share just to become better digital marketers. But certainly some of the things we were coming across were good for destination marketers. That kind of led into the first layovers. Then we kind of got into video podcasting a little bit and said, listen, some DMOs may not have the time to be able to dedicate to reading all 6 of these articles. But what if we just picked one every single week and we focused on that one? And from that one, we're able to just record and touch on the high points. So that's how the video podcast started back in 17. We would bring in guests, started here with SimpleView experts, and then kind of branched out during the pandemic to destination marketers like yourselves and brought it in. So we're kind of getting back to that format today. So today, as I got a little long-winded there, right?
You're good.
We're going to explore the world of AI, which has been incredible, right? So we're going to look at Google's new Gemini Advanced. Okay, so now this powerful AI tool is making waves in the digital marketing world, some not so good. And Sandy and I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. And it's really, I think, a first true competitor to ChatGPT-4. And we really want to make sure that our DMO listeners understand how it can revolutionize and help their strategies. Certainly, ChatGPT-4 I use probably on a daily basis. Sandy, what about you?
Yeah, same here. I think of myself as a power user of ChatGPT. I use it for everything, for thought starters and for coming up with images for presentations. There's even a functionality in our employee review that's allowing us to use some AI to look at past check-ins in order to create an annual review. So knowing that a help me write feature is coming to Google Workspace, that is huge. That's going to be a huge time saver. For me, it's going to cut down on all of the copy pasting that I have to do. So I think it's a fantastic tool, and it's a total time saver. In my little test group of one, I feel like Chat GPT is very wordy. Very long-winded,
Right.
whereas the copy that I'm getting out of Gemini does a much better job at generating that natural language and that flow that doesn't feel like a run-on sentence.
Yeah, could not agree more. I like you am very much a power user. It seems like the space is changing on almost a daily basis. Exactly why we wanted to get into this article today from Search Engine Land. We'll share a link to this inside of the show notes, certainly, so you guys have an opportunity to check that out. But it talks about Google expanding Gemini even more, really interweaving all of this into all of their suite of products and services. You've probably already seen some of this inside of Google Docs, Excel. There's talk about it going into Maps. So certainly with Google scalability, there's a lot to happen. Now, one way that users can access Gemini is through Google's experimental chatbot. You might have formerly known this as Bard, which I never got that name, Sandy.
I don't know why it was Bard, but I'm glad it's changing.
Yeah, it's so weird, right? So anyways, it's now called simply Gemini. This is what Google's going to call it for the time being. Now they have this more advanced version that we're going to talk about called Gemini Advanced that's also launched. It's available initially through Google's new Google One AI premium subscription. You can get that for like $20 a month, very similar to like the paid version of ChatGPT 4. Cool thing about it is, in the US at least, they have a 2-month free trial for this tool. So I signed up for that, been playing around with it a little bit. It's pretty cool. But with that, you get access to Gemini's Advanced right through Google One's premium services. We'll put a link to that as well in the show notes. See if you guys want to check that out and take advantage of that free 2-month trial. It's a great way to kind of kick the tires on it and get into it. So let's kick things off. I think, Sandy, then I think a little bit more with the basics for those who maybe are new to the term, right? Because some folks have jumped into AI a little bit. Some are taking a slower approach. Some are like you and I have done a full cannonball into the deep end.
Sure.
But let's give a little breakdown about what Gemini is first. And so let's talk about that. So really, Gemini Advanced is a large language model that comes from Google's AI. So think of it as a kind of a super smart AI assistant that excels in understanding and really generating human-like text, right? Very similar to ChatGPT. Now, it's powered by the Ultra 1.0 model, which they kind of promised to all of us at the end of 2023 if you saw their presentation. And it's trained on a massive amount of information and can perform really a wide range of tasks in the digital marketing space. And this thing will evolve incredibly. So essentially, it's Google's answer to ChatGPT, as I mentioned, plus a whole lot more. So Sandy, have you then had it? I know you said you're a power user on the ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to play with this tool yet?
I have. And yeah, like I mentioned, the differences between the two, I'm seeing that there is just more natural language coming out of Gemini specifically. If you look at the training data from the two platforms, ChatGPT is relying on Bing, whereas Gemini is relying on Google's index, which we all know, is massive compared to Bing. So I don't know how much that is playing into it. I don't really know the science behind it, but I definitely feel the difference when I'm using the tool itself.
It is still different. I think it still needs a lot of polish, but it does have some really cool capabilities. So let's jump into that though and start to get into a little bit more specifics. What are some of the key ways maybe that you found, Sandy? I know you've got some that maybe you could touch on. I'll touch on a few as well. But what are maybe some of the key ways that maybe Gemini Advanced can really help benefit destination marketing organizations out there? Certainly, we hear a lot about it in terms of content. Certainly a benefit here too. That's a natural with all these tools. But what are some ways maybe that would benefit DMOs in your opinion? Then I'll share some things I got too.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It really is about content and about getting that spin on the content. A lot of times we talk about formulating those content plans or those marketing plans over an extended period of time. You want to create a calendar of that content that's touching on all of the platforms and all of the various spins on a particular piece in order to get maximum coverage. So one really useful way of using any AI assistant is to have it do a remix or a rewrite of an original piece of content designed for a specific platform. Because remember, in both ChatGPT and in Gemini, there is a level understanding of the difference between the way content should be positioned on X or on Twitter. I'm sorry, on same thing, I think, or on TikTok.
I think everyone still
or
refers
Facebook.
to it as Twitter. Let's not kid
Everybody
ourselves,
does.
okay?
I'm trying.
They're trying. They're
I'm
trying, but I
trying.
tell you what, it's still Twitter.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. But there's a difference in the way that content should be positioned. Using those tools to help get those variations on a piece of content as you're planning out your calendar and pushing that content into various channels. That is a huge time saver. Another great time saver is getting some translation done. So if you need some quick translation done, it's miles away from Google Translate. It is not the same mechanism as Google Translate. So you are getting more of an accurate translation of that content. Now, with anything that you pull out of either one of these tools, you do have to do your own fact checking. Yeah. So if you decide to, translate a whole section of your website, you still need to hire that professional or have someone that who is a native speaker of the language review that content to make sure it's accurate. But hey, that's better than starting from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you talked about double checking the responses. Certainly, that's important. There was a big stink with ChatGPT about that too, not sourcing a lot of those things or not double checking it. Boy, I would hope in this day and age you're not just taking it right out of copying it and putting it like ready for prime time.
Oh,
Please
God.
don't do that. That's not a good thing, right? And one thing I do like about Gemini Advanced platform was at the bottom, you'll see when you put your response in, there's like this little G that's at the bottom, right? Like Google's little logo, which I thought was like pretty cool. And what it does is it allows you to double check your response and get sources for what they presented back to you. So when you put a prompt in and it spits back information, if you want to like find out how it sourced that information, so you have that, which is really good if you're doing like, research type things. It's great for research, or you're trying to source material. You can use that G to do that. So I thought that was a slick little thing that Google put at the bottom to help you with some of that. Also, there's some additional areas that I thought were a little bit different than ChatGPT, but I thought was smart from Google. So at the bottom too, they have a little filter section where you can modify responses. So in those responses, it's pretty cool. You can say, hey, I want the response to be shorter. I want it to be longer. I want it to maybe be simpler or more casual or more professional. It can do all of those things with the click of a button. So that's kind of like quick, like mods on the fly, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And then lastly, what stood out to me outside of the things, Sandy, that you already shared was, again, in Google fashion, they're a little bit ahead. So they have this like voice input option. So if you just want to speak to it and tell it what you want from a prompt standpoint, that's very cool. So I can just like spit out a prompt instead of having to write it out. Now, naturally, as all of you, I hopefully know, or if you don't, I'll make you aware that prompting is everything. There are jobs now that people are even engineer prompts for these AI tools. And it's incredibly important to get the prompts right, to get back the right response. It's like bad data in, bad data out.
That's right.
Generic data in, generic response back. So, but having voice where you can speak what you're trying to get across into it, I think was a real benefit of the tool.
Yeah, that is true. And something that I encourage people to do when they start exploring ChatGPT or Gemini is to take some time and just do a few Google searches on what are the best prompts. There are a lot of prompts out there that are already created that you can get out of various blog posts and other people's websites that will help you to just better guide these tools. Some people have made the mistakes already and have figured out, well, if I word it in a little bit of a different way, I will get a better result. So, as you start your dive into learning how to make this a day-to-day tool for you, take some time to read through some of the various prompts that people have been offering up, because it's really all about the prompt.
No, it really is. So out of the box, though, pretty impressive overall.
Yeah.
Right. So looking at this, let's talk a little bit about maybe some potential challenges then, right? Because like anything else, it's going to have some challenges. Certainly, right, Sandy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the challenge that all of us have, right, is cost.
Yes.
When just for me, my personal use, I have Chat
Mhm.
GPT and I have Midjourney, and now I'm up to $28 a month to use these
It's
platforms.
turning into streaming services, right?
It
Like, I
is.
gotta have Disney, I gotta have Hulu, I gotta have
It-
Netflix. So it's definitely
Absolutely.
getting up there a little bit, right?
It is, yeah, and combine that with the platforms, the Simple View's investing in, it's getting really pricey.
Mhm. Some things that I noticed too, again, being a more of a power user, right? And you touched on a couple of these things. One is, I think, accuracy a little bit. You talked about the importance of the prompt,
Yeah.
but then one thing that I've dug into a lot is custom GPTs, right?
Mhm.
That is not available today with at least as of the time that this podcast airs inside of Gemini Advanced, but certainly for those power users out there, not having custom GPTs is a feature right now that I imagine will come over time,
Yeah.
but something that I think is important if this tool wants to be able to scale and compete with Chat GPT. So being able to customize that, I think, is important. Anything else, Sandy, maybe that I missed from a challenge standpoint?
I think just in general, the conversation around privacy and
Yeah,
and
good point.
ethics,
Good
that
point.
is just going to continue to happen. Um, Ultimately, these tools are taking all kinds of things that are already created and they're doing a remix on it. But the sources for all of that content is not very visible.
Hmm.
So it's hard to say what direction, from a legal standpoint, from a copyright standpoint, these tools are going to end up. It's something that we want to leverage the tools to our advantage, and use them in a smart way, which is why we always recommend never just pulling things, straight from the tool itself for all of these reasons. It might be wrong. Also, it might be someone else's work. So we want to make sure that we're not crossing any lines there. Where that's going to end up, it's too early to say. But it's a lot of what the SAG-AFTRA strikes were about.
Yeah.
Being able to take someone's face and use them
Mhm.
in a background for any movie into the future. That's a really scary thought. That's taking money out of people's pockets because they don't have to work anymore. They can't work anymore. So it's hard for us to say where this is going to end up. It's something that we should be cautious about. It doesn't mean that we don't want to use the tool until we do figure it out, because we could be getting some efficiencies out of that
Mhm.
tool. We could also use it for inspiration. So while you might not want to take an image and put it on a billboard with your logo on it, you could use that image to give to a designer to say, I created this through AI. This is the idea that I'm thinking of. Can you create something original for me based on this idea?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just like ChatGPT 4, I think suggestions start small, work your way up. You'll start to find out the capabilities. You'll start to know where the lefts and rights are with the tool. But I think one last thing to put a bow, I think, on this is, in addition to this chatbot or this chatbot, I mentioned earlier that Gemini models are starting to power across all of Google's most popular tools. I mean, imagine again your favorite workspace tools. I think it's already showing its head in Docs. Certainly Gmail, it's been helpful. They're all getting an AI upgrade, and Google One subscribers are going to be able to access Gemini directly inside of those apps. So if you're a subscriber, you're going to get access to it today. They're going to open that up over time, but a huge productivity boost there too as we incorporate these little assistants to help you out along the way.
For sure.
Gemini is also starting to fold this into a lot of their code to help developers work faster and work smarter and boost security. So they haven't forgot about you either, devs out there. So all good there. So Sandy, let's now jump in and get into the article I think that you brought to the table, related, right? But has to do around trends, and we like to discuss and around some things that are happening there too. So.
Yeah, well, it's related because it's talking about trends.
Yeah. Yes.
So now that we've had time to make and break our New Year's resolutions,
Mhm.
we're heading into March. I thought it would be a good time for us to take a look at some of the trends that are influencing 2024.
Yep.
And so this article is taken from the Digital Marketing Institute. And we'll add this link to the show notes. But they're saying the same thing that everybody else is, that AI will play an increasingly valuable
Mhm.
role in marketing. It's powering chatbots and personalization and,
Mhm.
of course, content generation. And as marketers, we've got to figure out how we embrace these tools while at the same time understanding that AI is not a replacement for editors or writers or designers. We are timed and resource starved as
Mhm.
DMOs, right?
Yep.
So utilizing these tools puts us in a really great position to find those efficiencies and share them with the rest of our community. It's a really exciting time for us because there might be things on the horizon or techniques that we're putting into play that we haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's clear that technology, as we mentioned even earlier, is only going to get better, right? I mean, there's no doubt about that. It seems like it's happening on an sometimes an hourly basis,
Exactly.
but certainly every week there's some new happening. You had Sora come out last week with chat
Oh my
GPT,
gosh.
which help out with video, which is scary. It's
The
like
Sora videos.
broadcast or production quality type video. So it is moving rapidly, and certainly it's going to become more and more prevalent in our
Yeah.
day-to-day lives as marketers, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, but it's not just that new tech that we need to embrace. We can't forget about the fundamentals either. So content, it will and always be king, especially in the competitive social media landscape.
Very true.
There's a lot of noise that the consumer is being faced with. So if it's Threads or X or Snapchat or Insta or your Facebook or TikTok, you're not just responsible for the brand messaging. You also have this challenge of trying to figure out what social media platform gets you the most bang for your buck, right? Because you can't really be a jack of all trades. You've got to get hyper focused on what works with your particular audience. Also, just because you're a DMO, it's not going to be the same mix of platforms that works for your messaging and your audience because it's worked with another DMO. All that research has to be done independently, and it's our job to focus on creating high quality, authentic, and valuable content that cuts through all that noise and best resonates with the audience. But we also have to do the research to figure out what platform are we even putting this messaging on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's something that, that comes to mind when you mentioned that, Sandy, is like some of the things that we've done, like on platforms like LinkedIn,
Yeah.
right? Certainly serving the meeting sales side of the audience because of the incredible ability to target specific audiences, job titles, roles at a company, things of that nature. It's incredibly helpful that way.
Yep.
So I totally get what you're saying there.
Yeah, we have to, stay on top of our game too when it comes to the classics. And that's another point the article makes. All these new trends are emerging and we're super excited and we're trying to learn all of these new things. But the tried and true tactics of, SEO and PPC, that is always going to remain vital for driving traffic and getting that targeted reach.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that's how it's going to stay, right? I mean, if we're going to keep the integrity of these platforms, they can't only be a paid version of these things. There has to be organic to keep the integrity. Otherwise, whatever updates are made or feature sets or things are going to happen, there's going to be so much more pushback because it's going to always be seen as like, oh, this is why you're doing this because you're trying to get paid. Now, we know Google does that all the time with search results and things of that nature, but oftentimes though, they prop up organic and things of that nature because they understand the importance or the integrity of that platform organically feeds into the benefits of paid on that side.
Absolutely.
They're just trying to find new ways to come up and serve that information that fits their world. But make no mistake about it, they're pushing paid. But if everything in search was paid, it would just become a link farm and nobody would use it.
It would be impossible.
No one would use it.
Yeah. I mean, keep in mind, it is free to use Google. So their number one priority is making sure that the query responses are exactly what that user is looking for. That is going to include a paid element, but it is also going to include an organic one. And those two methods, you're always going to have to stay on top of your game with.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, great stuff there, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I think this gives you an opportunity to go check out Gemini Pro first and foremost, as Sandy mentioned with her article as well. Check out that one on Digital Marketing Institute. The one on Search Engine Land gets into a little bit more about how some of these things are coming into Google's suite of products. We thought it'd be very relevant for you guys because many of us use these products, whether it's Gmail, Calendar, Google Meets, a million other tools that we're using every single day. We probably touch Google in some way, shape, or form every day. So
for sure,
it's a great opportunity there. So Sandy, thanks for coming on, sharing this coming in for like this new audio format. I think it went really well today.
I think it was
appreciate
great.
the insights. Yeah, it went great. as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Again, subscribe through Spotify or through iTunes, however you like to consume content. We're happy to have you here. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time. Hope you have a great day.
Bye-bye.